Welcome to N2 the Chatterverse, where two gents share their 2 cents on pop media. I am Victor Danders, the hardest working man in comics.
I'm Bill, and I think we're going to get a little controversial.
Yeah, we are. But necessary. Kind of necessary.
Yeah.
I feel like with this kind of being in the ether, it's worth sharing other opinions about it. Because we're not saying that we're right. We're not saying anybody else is necessarily wrong. We're just giving other perspectives on this situation. And the subject du jour is AI, specifically AI at conventions. And I'm in a very unique position when it comes to my stance on it. I'll openly state it because I think that's right and fair. Mm-hmm. I am pro AI, despite the fact that I don't use it in my actual publishing creative output. Like I have used like ChatGPT for some things, for instructions, for guidance, still things that I have to execute. But if someone were to decide to make an entire comic book using AI, I don't begrudge them anything about it.
I can't imagine it being any good either.
Which becomes part of my like critique of people that are like, it's so bad. I'm like, why do you, if it's not good enough, why do you care? Like
right.
it's no different than just a burgeoning bad artist, and it doesn't affect you because they're not as good as you. But I say all that to kind of set the stage. Do you have any particular qualms about AI generated art or anything like that?
I can usually spot it.
Okay.
It's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't really care either way.
I
know a friend of mine who's a photographer who has used it to just play around with. Mm-hmm. And he thinks some of the stuff it does is, really cool. Mm-hmm. Some of it misses the mark completely. Heavily.
Yes.
It's just a tool to play with. My opinion on it is, if you don't like it, then leave it alone.
Yeah. I think that's the simplest way. The reason why we're going to talk about it is because it has hit the convention scene really hard over the last 2 weeks. Now, for those that don't know, I am a moderator for Fan Expo, pretty exclusively with them. There are some, shows that I'm allowed to do other work for, but pretty regularly, if you see me at a show, it's a Fan Expo event. And we just had our Fan Expo Canada event 2 weeks ago. And there was a big to-do about AI at that show. One of the show sponsors, so brought in not a vendor, right? They were a sponsor of the show, and they were given big booth space. And apparently, because I didn't go over there, and as part of the other aspect of this is hearing all the craziness that was happening while I was on site, I was like, I have other things to do, and I don't have time to go over there.
Yeah.
But there was a vendor who was essentially taking pictures of attendees and putting on an AI-generated filter. That's what it was described as to me, right? And that caused a big uproar of complaints, mostly from people who weren't there, which I thought was very interesting, but we'll just put that as that. Obviously, AI can be a very triggering conversation point when it comes to creatives. There is a very staunch sort of line drawn in the sand that is, it's stealing, it's bad, it's taking our jobs, blah, 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 right? And I don't say blah, blah, blah dismissively. It's just there's a lot behind it. And so, as I understand, there was a few people that had created hand-drawn signs that were protesting. There was an appearance of a police officer, not necessarily to remove them from protesting, but from just guiding them to a better position to protest so they weren't actually blocking a fire hazard area. These are the things that I've been told that this is how that actually played out. And this police officer, awesome as they are, facilitated actually a conversation between the protesters, some of the artists that were on site, and the head of whoever this company was. It was Bell Canada or something like that. Which it was then showcased that the filter, they actually hired artists to build or bring the filters in. However, they were using a open source free AI program to blend the pictures together. So they're using artists that they hired to do it, but the program that was specifically doing the AI blending was a little bit more open sourced and things like that. So that was a thing. A lot of fire, vitriol exploded on this one. It was, Informa is a corporation. They don't care. They've got this AI stuff when there are people that are doing caricatures right there. Everyone, like, I literally saw a statement that said everyone that paid to be there that was doing caricatures should get their money for free or get their money back because FanXWeb brought in this AI generative whatever. Now, immediately, I had a similar eye roll to you.
Yeah.
And my rationale is this. It is not a matter of AI versus live art in that conversation. What I took that as specifically is if there is competition to me making money, then I should get my spot for free. That is how I put that down.
And I look at it as the people that were paying for this, they have a choice.
Sure.
They could go the AI route or they could go the traditional route.
Right.
Maybe they went both. It doesn't sound like any laws were broken.
That becomes the tricky part, right? So, and I didn't get the guy's name, but I got a shout out from a guy who, he said he was a trial lawyer. During one of my, pre-panel conversations with fans, I like to open up the door and be like, hey, is there anything that you guys want to talk about that we can make the show better? And somebody brought up AI. And they're like, we should specifically not allow it. It's taking away artists, ability to make money, this, that, and the other. And I was like, listen, I will tell you right now, I don't have the same problem with it that you do. However, if you feel that strongly, I would tell you to petition like your legislature so that there is an official like law on the books that says this is what AI is. This is where you can use it. This is where you can't use it. And how that should be affected in commerce. I was like, petition for that. I said, because once you do that, then as a corporation, there is a leg to stand on to say specifically whether you're for it or against it, right? Without that, there is always the liability that as a corporation, if you make a stance against AI art and there is no official legislature about it, you're now discriminating. And that can be held liable against you. So that's what we need to do. It's not a matter of going to a big company and being like, you need to make some rules. No, the rules need to come from a little bit higher, and then there can be a dissemination of rules and things like that.
Yeah, to think that a company has moral standards is
come on, companies are people
very,
now.
very high on the naive scale.
Well,
it's why we have regulations,
right?
So to think that a company on its own is going to go, hey, we're going to do it this way because it's right.
It's not going to happen.
No, and they may say that.
Sure.
But what's right for them,
right,
may not be right on the moral scale.
Agreed. So this past weekend was Dragon Con. Again, one of the biggest events in North America, huge in Atlanta, draws people from all over the place. And big to do, again, where there was apparently an artist vendor area who was ousted, and AI seems to be at the core of this situation. Now, in my reading of it, I am kind of like keying in on certain things that I think it was not specifically the AI that was the problem. It is that when this person applied for their space, they claim to be one thing. Now, I don't know exactly what that is.
Yeah.
But when they were there and they were setting up and selling stuff, what they were doing is different than what they applied for. And I would definitely say that if there's anything that's on the books as a policy violation, it's that. If you show up and say that you're going to be doing this and you do something else, that could be a problem. Like, because you are either designated a space based on what it is that you're selling, or there are different things that they are promoting actively, like themselves, saying that this is what you are. And if you are misrepresenting that part, then they could be held liable because they said that you said that you're this and now you're not. So that could be a problem. From that point, do you see any kind of crazy spots?
I think that, if you're misrepresenting yourself, then yeah, that's not a good thing. But also, I think it just depends on what it was.
Right.
And and I don't know Dragon Con. I've heard of it.
Right. Same.
If they were, say, advertising as AI free, then that would be a problem.
Right. I can definitely see that. Right?
Especially if this person knew ahead of time
that's what their policy was.
I'm curious as to how many times someone's been thrown out for misrepresenting themselves without any outrage.
It has happened without question. Outrage varies. There is a guy, I'll just say his last name, Granito, who years ago, caught the vitriol of the entire internet because in his efforts to booster his presence or his resume, so to speak, he would claim that he worked on things that he's saying that he worked on it because he drew a print of it, and that's not the same thing, right?
Yeah, that's a big one, right?
That's a huge one, huge. One of the key ones that people clocked in on was that he put Calvin and Hobbes down, and you're like, sir, Calvin and Hobbes is Bill's work. Like that's no one else did. Calvin and Hobbes.
Bill Watterson have a studio of people that were
no
drawing because that Garfield was like that.
Sure, but that's not what this was like at all. Into which like his explanation was, well, I did this Calvin and Hobbes piece, so I worked on Calvin and Hobbes, and it's like, no, that makes it sound like you worked on the official Calvin and Hobbes material, and you had nothing to do with that. Not the books.
That's
not
a
the
gross
stamps. Exactly.
Interpretation of worked on.
Exactly. So that has happened, like where misrepresentations have been addressed in the convention space. Now, the hard part, of course, is you have to catch it. Right? Someone has to notice, see what you said, and then actually verify, how that works. I've been at a show where, again, works pulled off the internet, printed out, sold as prints, was not that person's work. Very much so. I remember that we were in Minneapolis, right? It was a Wizard World show, Minneapolis. This guy is trying to sell prints, and one of the prints is clearly, if you know, Neil Adams' Batman. Now,
that's pretty distinctive, right?
It's very distinctive. And I think it was like a painting, right? So, but it's Neil's. Like, it's Neil's. The issue, Neil Adams was at the show.
That was going to be my question. Was Neil Adams still around when this happened?
Yes, he
but
was.
Obviously, Wizard World, it was probably pretty good chance.
Yeah, Neil was there. I was there when Neil went to talk to the guy, right?
Yeah.
And Neil is like, listen, you can't do this. Like, you can't. And the guy's like, look, we spent our last money. We're trying to get like our rent, mortgage, whatever. We came here trying to flip and hustle, and this is what we did, right? And Neil is like, I get it. You can't do that though. Like, you didn't make this piece. I know because it's in my living room right now. Like, that's mine. You're promoting yourself as though you made it, and you can't do that. And clearly, these were what I would call relative outsiders who maybe have a tendency to sell stuff, eBay, whatever.
Yeah. They
seemingly didn't realize that to take artist work and try to turn around and flip it real quick would backfire on you, especially if the artist is there. Like, that wasn't what they was looking for.
I get, if you're an outsider, then I obviously, you're not going to know Neil Adams' work.
Right. But we also have a culture at comic conventions where that stuff happens. There's plenty of people that are selling autographs of actors who are also selling autographs, right?
Yeah.
And so rather than pay $100 for this autograph that is a 8 by 10 piece, I'm going to go to this other guy for $50 who has a similar thing. And I can see people doing that. Like, the difference is, of course, the autograph, like, vendor guy definitely had to pay whatever amount to go get that autograph initially himself. Is that what necessarily people who are jumping into the business for quick gains think about? Probably not. You know, they're not thinking like, what are the ways that this actually should go?
Yeah.
They're just trying to get a quick buck. And I think that's one of those interesting things where in our industry, conventions, there have been safeguards about that stuff. There have been, pieces where guys have done, I don't want to say Roy Lichtenstein, but kind of Roy Lichtenstein level, like, recreations of a page or something like that. Mm-hmm. And there are times when they get confronted, like, you didn't make that book. And they're like, no, I didn't make that book. This is a recreation from a panel or something like that.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, you didn't say after such and such. And they're like, oh, you know what? That's my bad. I meant to put that on there, or I covered it up and I colored over it. I didn't mean to, whatever. There's all these different safeguards. But the AI thing has become so, like, critical, where it's almost like a mob mentality kind of thing. Like, there are people that are, instead of enjoying the show, are like hunting for, are you using AI? Are you using AI? You should go stop their stuff. Take their stuff. And I'm like, whoa. This is bringing such a negative energy to a space that should be about fandoms.
Yeah.
And I'm really worried that it is going to cause, again, furthering of a mob mentality, but a very strong bully culture of competition, where I've seen it before, right? With people that are making comic books. They point at people that are selling prints as a villain. Well, you're taking away money from us because you've got these prints of these Marvel and DC characters that you didn't pay a license to do. And now people aren't buying my books because they're buying your $20 print. But I believe in competition and capitalism. Like, if you're good, you'll make your money. Like, that's your job.
Yeah.
And that becomes kind of the thing that I'm most worried about, is we're getting into like this self-righteous statement of, well, you're not allowed to do this, where the person isn't self-reflectively focusing on, my job is still to do what my job is. It doesn't matter who's in the room.
Right.
I still got to perform. Is that weird? Am I weird for thinking that way?
No, because I think the big problem is that you're trying to take choices away from people, and everyone should be able to make their own choice, good or bad. On the bad side, if you get caught doing it,
suffer the consequences.
Yeah. Like I said, if AI is not your thing, then stay away from it.
Yeah.
And I think it's just like anything. Like, if you don't like the color blue, don't buy anything.
Don't buy blue.
Yeah.
Don't do it. Yeah. Don't work at Walmart.
And if you have a problem, spelling the letter M and prefer to use an X for some reason,
do that instead.
I can get that 1 week out of the year, but all 365 days of the year, no.
Yeah. Exogen Avenue is not.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah. No, it comes down to choice.
Yeah.
And I think that, more choices is not a bad thing.
Right.
Unless you're trying to get through the line quickly.
I can totally see that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I definitely want people to voice their opinions rather in protest of, voice their opinions in support of creatives in a better way. Mm-hmm. Like, again, you don't have to tell somebody that they're not allowed to be somewhere. Just don't serve them. Like, don't buy their stuff, like you said.
Yeah.
Especially for artists. And this is kind of one of those critical things that I think is so necessary for artists to understand, is stop valuing AI artwork intrinsically. Like, it doesn't have value intrinsically. You can still fail with AI. Mm-hmm. Like, that's the most important thing. And anytime that somebody is suddenly equating AI's generative properties with success, you're undermining your own efforts when you do that, because you can make an amazing piece and it doesn't move. It doesn't mean it wasn't amazing. It doesn't mean it wasn't very technical. It just wasn't what people were looking for or wanted at the time. Mm-hmm. We should not be putting anything that is generated by anyone as somehow immediately and automatically successful, because it still very much so could fail. And if there's anything that I think you should really be getting across to anyone that you think is cheating by using AI, is that, like, tell them it still takes effort. Whether that is in the creation of the thing or the marketing of the thing or the selling of the thing, it's still going to take some effort. So no matter what, you just know that you being here is not the win that you think it is. It's not enough. There's going to still have to be a measure of work. And if you didn't put it in by way of making the thing, you're going to have to put it in by selling it, because you're going to have to prove to people why they should come to you versus go to their own AI generative thing and make this. Like, that's, yeah.
I also kind of look at AI the way I look at Google.
Okay.
It's like, if I'm searching for something, it's there.
Yes.
But also I have to be specific at some point in time. I will use Google to figure out what something's named.
Right.
I'll put it in a description. I'll bring it up, bring up a picture. I click on the picture and I get the actual name of it.
Yeah.
Does that mean that I can't use that tool because I didn't know
what it was called myself?
What a flathead screwdriver was different than a Phillips head screwdriver? Or I didn't know the difference between a number 1 and a number 3 head? No. I mean, you have to, you still have to use your brain somehow.
Yes. Yes. And I think that's kind of the thing is I love art for its ability to capture human expression. Sure. Mm-hmm. But whatever is being expressed is human expression. And I don't think that we should be in a place where we are judging the efforts of these things to say, well, it doesn't count because this is what did it. I just was reading up about Virgil Abloh, who is a fan of, oh my God, I just lost his name. There was an artist who took a urinal, right? Like a prefabbed urinal piece, signed his name on it, and turned it in as an art piece. And he's like, the artistry is not in the making of the thing. It was in my decision to say that this is now art. And I'm like, that's interesting. For so many people, I'm sure they're like, that's stupid. That's dumb. Right. It's taping a, banana to the wall. But in terms of designating that decision to do that is art, that's the point of the expression. Like that's what we, So I just want people to have a more thoughtful critique about these things rather than the very triggered defensive critique, because I feel like that does not help us as artisans, as creatives. How we approach something should be just as creative as what we approach. So that's kind of my soapbox. But we are going to see some changes. GalaxyCon yesterday did make an official policy announcement about AI. And obviously that is going to create a ripple effect. GalaxyCon being another top tier, premier, multi-show institution. Them making a statement is definitely going to trigger follow-up responses from all the big tier places. So I expect one from Fan Expo. I expect one from Reed Pop. I expect one from Left Field. There's going to be repercussions from this, and it's going to be very interesting to see how this moves forward. Is there going to be a goon squad that roams around patrolling to see, oh, that looks like AI, get them out of here? Or is it enough that this policy now exists that artists will be like, okay, well, there's at least something here. I'm going to focus on what I'm supposed to do rather than still, red scaring everyone in Artist Alley. Because that's also what I'm afraid of, is that it's going to be more about hunting down the AI users versus creating something, selling something, and finding your own fan base, which that should be the goal at all the times. All the times. I am curious for you guys down below. Like, are you actively questioning whether or not AI was used in any of the art? consumption that you have, whether that's in books, visual art, any of that stuff. Is that something that you're looking for? Do you have a criteria of how much you're willing to support AI usage versus anything else? Let us know, because this is an ongoing conversation. I don't necessarily have the answers. I have my answers, but not the answers. Same with Bill. Is there anything that you want to ask people about their consumption or association with AI generated anything?
Well, I guess I have a question as to how's AI any different than taking a known character and just making it a zombie?
That's a good question. That is a really good question. And to that end, Marvel Zombies coming out soon. We'll be checking that out. I'm going to get Bill to watch the trailer for it and get his thoughts. Not this time, but next time. On Into the Chatterverse. Thank you guys for tuning in. I am Victor Dandridge, the hardest working man in comics.
And I'm Bill, and I'm not AI generated. Or am I?
Oh, no.